link to sign up. It is in the YouTube channel. We will include it. Again, it's great because not only do we cover the top new phishing tactics every week, but we talk about the latest cyber news, the latest cyber breaches, and the most important vulnerabilities that have come out in the last week. And then I try to make the list very special for small to medium-sized businesses. So we really try to highlight the news around small to medium-sized businesses, and especially for our SM clients. All right, so with that in mind, insider threats, every to feature at least one insider threat that made the news. This is the story of how Daniel Ryan ruined his IT career. Allegedly, this guy is an IT admin. He was charged with extorting his employer. And this is what he did. This story was nuts. When I read it, I was just like, how could a guy get away with all this? How could a business not have the technical controls in place to prevent this from happening? But here's what Daniel did. He went in, he reset all the passwords to all the network admin accounts. He then went and locked out hundreds of user accounts, deleted all the backups, locked out the users out of all the servers, and then on top of all that, this guy had the audacity to email everyone and notify them of a cyber attack and demand a ransom. He allegedly changed people's passwords to the frozen crew. And then, of course, you get the FBI involved and, they're searching this guy's computer and they find stuff allegedly like command line to change local admin passwords. How do I do that? I don't know about you, but an IT admin that doesn't know how to do that is in rough shape. So Daniel Ryan coming soon to a prison near you. Terrible, terrible news. All right, we got a couple other stories to go. And last week, I promised you that every single time we do these briefings, I'm going to give you a short 5-minute learning segment, maybe even less than 5 minutes. And this week's topic is how to identify AI-generated content. Now, the big thing with AI in the news is deepfakes. That's what we talk a lot about with cybersecurity. The scams where they're making fake videos, they're impersonating business owners. So how do you identify that kind of stuff? And let me tell you, folks, man, it is a skill. And hopefully your employees can learn from this knowledge that I share with you right now. The first thing I want to share is how to identify AI-generated speech. And what was fascinating for me is I was actually able to clone my dad's voice. My dad passed away 10 years ago. I wanted to bring him back. And I was able to take 30 seconds of my dad's voice from a videotape and actually bring him back. And a lot of bad guys now are doing this with, they're looking on YouTube, they're finding your business owner's audio, and then they're cloning it. How do you identify it? You're going to listen for weird pronunciations and pacing. You're going to also listen for weird pauses. A lot of AI has trouble with that right now. The other thing to look for is AI pronouncing words incorrectly. I am not AI generated, by the way. I'm a real person. Yes, I know. But when you hear weird pauses or you hear weird racing through other speeches in unnatural ways, minimal emotion, variations, sometimes little variation in the voice, that's the kind of trigger for you that it may be AI-generated audio. There's another thing to look for too, and that is AI pictures. AI pictures are probably the easiest thing to identify right now. It may change in the future, but when you think about these AI art generators and photo generators, they're trained on huge data sets of images and pictures. And a lot of these times when they generate the image, they struggle with certain things. Probably the most telling thing to notice is when you see a dreamlike image. I like to call it looking like a Bratz doll. When you see it looking like a Bratz doll, you know it's an AI image. There's sometimes a sheen or a shininess to AI-generated images. Overexposure happens. Sometimes dramatic lighting in the wrong places. Look for extra fingers. When you see extra fingers, you know you're on a thing. And then sometimes you'll see blending in the wrong place where you have a fireplace generated and it's outside the house. Okay, that was one example. Or you see extra windows that just don't look right. So look for jumbled text too. That's another way to identify AI-generated pictures. One thing that is a little bit easier to identify too is the AI videos. How do you know? How do you know if a video was made with AI? There's two things you need to know about this right now, and that is there are some videos that are generated only by AI models. Entire sequences, there's no real footage, it never existed. All right, those ones are from like the OpenAI Sora model. The second thing you need to be aware of is AI videos that are deepfakes. Excuse me. Now, what you're looking for is this: faces that don't look right, faces that don't blend, audio that doesn't kind of match up, lighting that doesn't match the scene, mouths that glitch, artifacts in the video. One of the best examples of this, if you go on Elon Musk's Twitter, he has a video of Kamala Harris speaking, and you will see the AI generated video of that. That came out in July 26th. If you start searching for it, you'll see an amazing example of AI generated video. All right, now the last one I want to share with you, this is kind of unique, not really cyber related, but it's interesting, is songs generated by AI. And you know, if you've never heard an AI generated song, I recommend you Google one. The one that I listen to is this "Ain't Got a Nickel, Ain't Got a Dime" song. All right, AI music generators are really interesting. They take samples of music, they try to relearn the relationships between the notes and the sounds and the instruments, and then generate something. Really, I think this is a little bit more difficult to identify. You're listening for glitches in the audio, hiccups. Sometimes you're listening for vocals that just don't sound realistic at all. Weird, nonsensical lyrics is a big one. So many country music songs right now are AI generated, and that's where you really see the examples of that. So there you have it, folks. Some good examples. Again, help your team, help your employees identify this kind of stuff. With that in mind, let's get back on the cyber track. We got a few more minutes to go here. And by the way, identifying AI material that's AI written material that's AI generated, it's a lot more challenging. But I will tell you this: in the example we have here on the slide is a bunch of words, and if you see, for right now in this at this day and time, if you see a consistent use of these words in AI generated writing, chances are it's written by an AI platform. So it's very much of a challenging thing to predict, though, if it was written by AI. But these words are consistently found in AI generated content. Okay. By the way, next week we're back with another live briefing, and we will help you write better AI prompts. We'll try to do, a 5-minute learning segment here, how to write better AI prompts. And I think that should be a good episode. Okay. What does it matter to me about these Rust-based ransomware? It's called Cicada 3301. And if you're a small to medium-sized business, be aware of this. It is absolutely targeting your sector, your industry. What it is it's written in a code called Rust. Not a very popular code for threat actors, but they are now gravitating towards that because they know that a lot of businesses don't have controls in place to identify Rust-based ransomware. So for right now, the news is this. There is this type of ransomware called Cicada. It's particularly targeting VMware ESXi. So if you have a VM environment, you're using any one of these, it's vulnerable sign driver that can bypass your EDR detection system. So be aware of it. It can actually shut down the VM. It can terminate your backup processes. If you want to learn more about this, Morphosec put out a great report. We'll include a copy of this in our weekly threat intelligence email links. And the report is fascinating on how they're able to target this. Okay, more industry reports. Every week, our peers in the industry, they always put out reports. Some of them are sales reports, and then some of them are more stories to go over with you in this SOC use case. So these are our SOC analysts out there helping our clients try to find bad guys. One of the alerts came in this past week, and it was about a malicious program that we had to really just dive into this. And what we found was it was an outdated calculator that a vendor made, no longer supported, but yet the business still had these legacy software programs running in their environment. So it's a good idea. What you want to do is asset management. You want to know what's in your environment. You should be running scans. This is what we do here at SM. We have this Pulse platform. We're able to get in. We're able to get an idea of what assets you have in your environment, and then you have a better idea what needs to get patched, or better yet, if it's legacy like this old calculator, get it removed. This one actually had malware attached to it, and as we went into it and we investigated, we were able to find this in the kill chain around the exploitation phase. And again, this is from not knowing what you have in your environment, not getting rid of the old stuff, and this is where we found it. Luckily, we were able to stop this from infiltrating too deadly into the business and having any exfiltration. So there you have it, folks. That is our use case for the week. Another segment, we do this every week. We do gaslighting. When you've been in this cybersecurity business, you sometimes you get upset. You try not to let these stories bother you, but sometimes they do. And this is our outlet to try to get this off our shoulders. And with that, one thing you need to be aware of is GitHub. A lot of companies are using GitHub. A lot of developers love it. But what's happening right now is in the comments, there are bad guys that are pushing out malware, password stealing malware as fixes. So here it is. You read a comment and it says, hey, click on this comment for the fix, and the fix links you out to malware. That's the kind of stuff you have to be aware of. You have to be on top of it. In this example here that's been making the news, it's about distributing the Luma Stealer information stealing malware. So again, be aware of it. It's making the news. Anything that's in links and comments, don't ever click on. One other story that caught my eye this week that got us, what grinds my gears, folks, is Twitch. You imagine this? They created this drop-in feature, and it was turned on the VTubers' cameras without consent. Now, good thing is, Twitch, we apologize. We're sorry. This feature should have never made it to production. It did. And again, just be aware of it. If you have been following the news, you may have heard the story about Intel responding to this hacking research. And this, again, what grinds my gears, this researcher, Mark, he works for a company out of Russia, and he says in his Twitter post, Intel hardware, too complex to be absolutely secure. And of course, Intel, they got to protect their business model. They got to respond to this. And, they came out and they said, hey, the tests that Mark did, they were conducted on systems that they had physical access to. They may not have been properly configured, the latest mitigations. So I always like when you see the researchers, publish something and then the vendor responds back. So that's interesting stuff. If you want to learn more, we'll have this story in our links for the week. And of course, Clearview. Look at this fine. This is the Dutch Data Protection Authority fining Clearview AI $33.7 million for unlawful data collection. And this is an interesting company because they are one of those companies that they create these vast databases of facial images. They do a lot of data scraping, allegedly, from public sources on the internet. And these types of images that these companies scrape, they might be used to train their AI model. Sometimes they're done to generate unique biometric identifiers. Again, crazy stuff, right? And they got fined for it. So I would like to see more of this kind of stuff. Don't stop with Clearview, all right? Now, Columbus, Ohio, oh man, this breach has taken on a life of its own. I thought this breach was not going to take off like it did, but it made our gaslighting segment for the week, and it made it because, well, let me tell you the story, all right? You guys ready for a story? Sit down here, all right? You definitely sit down for this one. Fireside Chats with Heff, all right? Here's the story. City of Columbus was hit by a cybersecurity incident. Apparently it happened, I think July 18th was the date, publicly announced 4 days later. And then what we have is July 25th, the systems are still down for a week after the initial incident, right? The mayor is trying to do damage control. Of course, the news media is all over this. And by the way, WCMH-TV, WBNS, you guys deserve a regional Emmy award. And also the newspaper, Columbus Dispatch, you guys are doing a great job reporting on this. Don't stop. All right. Apparently, everyone's looking for patient zero. And the story goes that maybe someone downloaded a zip file from a website. Mayor has never named the employee responsible for this. We don't know the title or department. All right. To me, that's irrelevant at this point. What I want to know is what data has been stolen. Now, we fast forward in time. August 1st, Columbus Police, they claim that bank accounts are hacked. They claim that accounts are being opened in their name. And then we go to the bad guy. Reseda ransomware group is behind this. They put up all the data for sale in the dark web in an auction. I think it was like 50 Bitcoin was the initial auction. It doesn't sell. Nobody buys Columbus, Ohio's data. Then you fast forward in time, a second option with a lower price point. I think it was like 30 Bitcoins. And it doesn't sell again. Oh, man. All right. Now, here's where the story goes bonkers. The bad guys decide to just give away. Allegedly, they're just giving away all of this data that they have. And it was a couple terabytes. And the mayor comes out on August 13th, and he does this press conference claiming that Reseda's leaked data is unusable. Oh, man, this is where companies go wrong. This is where governments go wrong. These press conferences where you think you know everything and you don't. All right, are you sure about that, Mayor? So we're gonna call up our Scooby-Doo gang here. Whoa, we got ourselves a mystery to solve. All right, and guess what, folks? Some white hat guys. This guy named right here, Connor Goodwolf. I love your name, Connor. Man, I would love to hang out with you sometime at a conference. Connor goes on the dark web and gets the data. Ah, man, and this is where it goes off the rails. The judge, so Connor takes this to the city and says, hey, what you guys said is wrong. I've actually found a lot more data than what you guys are sharing with the public. And the city kind of blew the guy off. And then he went to the news media, and that did not go over very well. The minute it hit the local news media, and he's sharing some of the stuff that was found, including the news media people, 100% preventable is what he was saying. And he was saying also, a lot of this comes down to basic cyber hygiene tasks, folks. When you don't have separation of databases, you're not doing the most common cyber hygiene things that need to happen. This is where you get in trouble, folks. This is where it goes bad. So the restraining order is granted by the judge, oh man, against the white hat dude, against Connor Goodwolf, for taking this information and trying to do good with it. And what Connor is saying is, he said, he parsed some of the data. Look at this, guys and gals. Who is affected? It's a lot bigger than what he's saying. He's saying that, it's not just the police, the fire, the vice squad, undercover cops' names, so much more. But, I didn't know this. I didn't know if you go to a Columbus City Hall meeting, apparently you have to, use your driver's license to get in there. I don't know if that's true or not. But all that, you're talking Public's driver's license data for years was kept by Columbus. Boy, the amount of data that is in here is absolutely heartbreaking. And if you're a victim of this, my heart does go out to you. I'm not trying to make light of the situation, but not listening to us white hat guys and gals out there like Connor is where you get in trouble. And Connor's offering his services for absolutely nothing. So the city comes out with a quote, and I think I got this from the Columbus Dispatch. It takes a level of sophistication to get to this information on the dark web. No one is going out there and simply just Googling dark web to find this. All right, and of course, the Electronic Frontier Foundation is involved now, because you're talking about free speech. You're talking about a lot of different elements here, a lot of different layers, right? Like the movie Shrek. There's a lot of onions are like layers. It doesn't take any sophistication or vast technical knowledge to access the dark web. And that is so true, all right? So where does the story go from here? The world is burning right now when it comes to Columbus, Ohio. My info was stolen in Columbus. It's ridiculous. The city is targeting the cyber expert. Goodwolf should not have been the one who revealed the depth of the security attack. The truth should come from the mayor. And wow. I mean, it gets the burn, folks, just gets deeper and deeper. Columbus officials embarrassing themselves with a lack of transparency. The city of Columbus hiring a law firm. Oh, man. And then, again, you're not leveraging the good guys. This, folks, is not how you handle a breach. This, by the way, is a textbook example of what not to do. And, boy, it is so heartbreaking. Okay. The good news is this, though. EFF is on this. Hopefully they represent Connor. As of this writing, as of this broadcast, we have not heard that. But as the world burns, it just burns bad. Okay. What keeps us up at night in the SOC? There's always at least 1, 2, 3 things that keep us up at night. Shadow IT is one such thing. And shadow IT, we're talking about IT devices, software, hardware, services that the IT department in your business does not know about. Now, there's a lot of ways to detect this kind of stuff, but the more importantly is the risks and knowing the risks. And once you know the risks, you can then begin to come up with a plan to determine your level of shadow IT risk. And by the way, here's some ways to manage that risk. Education is really one step. Knowing what technology is being used in your business, having guidelines, policies, and prioritizing the risk. So there you have it. We're live, folks. We're not stopping, all right? Now, as we come to the back half of today's threat briefing, I know you're curious. I'm always wondering, what are the top breaches we need to talk about every single week? And we don't have time to cover every single breach. My goal is to give you the top ones that are making the news or may make the news next week if you're tuning in and you're just now joining our little party. Dick's Sporting Goods. Oh, man. I could not believe the size of Dick's Sporting Goods in terms of their footprint. 850 stores. That is a lot to protect. And here it is, a breach. We don't have a lot of details. We know that it happened potentially on August 2nd, allegedly. Companies locked employees out of their accounts to protect it. But as of right now, we'll give you an update if we learn more about this breach. Another breach we don't have a lot of attribution on. It's very early in this process. Tracello, I probably butchered it. It's a new company, relatively new. Tracello is one of those companies that they can determine your location using just your phone number. That's the tool and the services they use. They're saying they potentially breached September 1st. Again, we're waiting for more attribution. We know full names, phone carrier, phone number, time zones were included in this. A lot of privacy concerns, folks, in this breach. Very curious how this is going to play out. 1.4 million users data. The London, Transport for London. Oh, man. This one, too, no evidence yet of customer information compromised. We do have a little press release from them. They're still searching. And by the way, the London Transport folks, these guys, they had a breach back in July. If you guys remember in the news, Klopp, ransomware group, they were behind the Move It breach. And Transport was caught up in that. So they got some explaining to do. Last week, we talked about Halliburton, that cyber breach. We got a little bit more details this week. A little bit more as in one detail. That Ransom Hub was allegedly behind the attack is what we know right now. Again, we'll stay on top of this. This is a huge conglomerate, and I'm always curious on how these guys got breached. Once we know more, we'll share that with you in an update. So let's press the magic button and let's go down that road of a couple cyber stories that caught our eye as we wrap up today's threat briefing. And again, thank you always for joining us. Rest in pieces. F Movies was shut down. This is a piracy network. I could not get over. F Movies had 6.7 billion visits from January 2023 to June 24. That's a huge amount. The 11th most popular website in the world. And these piracy guys got shut down. Good job. All right. Another story that caught my news is AI stuff. And the AI story about Gen AI creating a playable version of Doom with no code. What? That's amazing. There's going to come a day when video games can use AI to generate random maps, and I can't wait for that day. Randomly generated maps, and you don't know where you're going when you're playing a game. Another story in the news is about all these fake AI-generated reviews flooding the app stores. You know how hard it is to really even identify AI? And now imagine you're going into the app store, you're trying to find an app, trying to find if it's legit or not, and it's flooded with all these reviews that seemingly are positive or maybe negative. So very much interesting conversation. How to identify these AI-generated reviews on the app stores is a topic we're going to talk about in a future briefing, by the way. All right, ChatGPT, Sam Altman. You guys know Sam Altman? Sometimes he's portrayed as a villain, sometimes as a hero. He's saying that the scope of AI, is getting thinner. As AI-generated content is flooding the internet, it's making it harder to find good material to train the LLMs on. Fascinating topic, all right? Interesting problem to have. Not able to train your LLM because the internet is now flooded with AI-generated content. Okay. And by the way, there is a concept floating around the world right now, maybe soon coming to the United States. It's a concept called right to disconnect laws. And countries like France, Spain, Belgium, and now Australia talking about it, the right to disconnect. And I liked Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. Who dreams this crap up? Yeah, Kevin, I got to tell you, man, I enjoyed your interview about this. Blurring the lines between work and personal life. A lot of people, a lot of folks, including myself, you want to be online. You want to respond to threats. You want to protect our businesses, our clients. And sometimes it's hard to disconnect. California, by the way, may introduce a bill like this, Assembly Bill 2751. That bill was shelved, but it may be reintroduced in the future. So right to disconnect. Fascinating stuff, guys. And CISA, I think this is our final story of the week. Yeah, CISA put out a cybersecurity advisory on Ransom Hub. We mentioned Ransom Hub earlier in the briefing. This is well worth your time if you want to understand the IOCs, you want to understand how initial access happens with Ransom Hub ransomware, how to detect it, and how to mitigate it. This report by CISA is absolutely fantastic. We'll include this link along with all the other links covered in today's threat briefing in our weekly threat intelligence email. You can sign up on the link there below. And as always, thank you for joining us. We hope you learned something. I hope you had a good time hanging with your old pal Heff. And as always, we'll see you next week. Have a good one, folks.